Nigerians continue to
Tonight,
travel
the
in
city
and
of
out
Lagos
of their
went
very
agog as all routes.
To you on
Be the first to know.
on Core TV News.
From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa,
Federal High
we
Court.
break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News,
Welcome to Core
a
TV News.
24-hour news station.
Terrorism started like a little spark of fire in 2009 here in Nigeria, and you can now decide if it has turned into a wildfire. But what we know is that almost every other day on the front page of the papers we hear about one terror act or the other, especially in northern Nigeria. It's happened in Abuja, and recently during the Ramadan fast, folks were of the opinion that at least for once we were going to take a little break from the incessant news and reportage on terrorism in Nigeria. But the reverse is the case. You heard about the Kaduna blast, and this time around targeting a major political figure and religious figure in Nigeria. And then just the latest came all the way from Kano as well. Another bomb blast rocking this major metropolis. The big question on our lips this morning is fighting Boko Haram. Where exactly is the pledged foreign intervention? The newspapers are counting its day 103 after the abduction of over 200 girls from Chibok. Of course, we heard about help coming from the United States, the UK, China, and all across the world. And, there was little liked jokes coming from some quarters that within 3 or 4 days, the American soldiers will find out where the girls are and go there just like we're watching foreign movies, bring them back safe. I'm joined now by our retired military colonel, Hassan Stan Lambo. Good morning. Thank you for finding time to join us again.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Well then, we have expressed a lot of optimism when we heard about the foreign intervention coming for Nigeria. But how would you describe it? Over 3 months now, the girls are yet to be freed from their abductors, and incessant bombing doesn't seem to stop. What do you think is wrong?
Frankly speaking, I can understand the concerns of Nigerians. Look, what could be wrong? Because the initial impression, rather, was that the coming in of these foreign elements, might just be the magic wand we've been looking for, waiting for, and so on. One thing I must let you understand first and foremost is that none of these foreign elements are ready to place their men on the line. That is to say, there wouldn't be boots on ground. Fine. It therefore means that the bulk of the job would have to be done by technology. And I expect to see a lot of synergy between our own military forces with the foreign partners, in some form of synergy that will see how we can achieve the ultimate aim. But as to what may be causing the delay, frankly speaking, it remains a marvel to us all, and maybe only those who are actually involved on ground should be able to tell us, look, what's still causing the delay? More so, when we already know where the girls are. We already know where the girls are. Those holding the girls have told us we are holding them. So I think the search thing is over by now. We are not searching. What we are into now is making up our mind as to what line of decision, what line of action to take. Are we negotiating to get out the girls? Or we are still allowing ourselves to be bedeviled by the fact that we should go on some rescue operation, which is dicey as far as I'm concerned.
Let's look at what preceded this foreign intervention. Some have also said that it took the United States quite a long time to name Boko Haram as a foreign terrorist organization. That was done just in 2013. There were a lot of conspiracy theories. Some are saying that the former U.S. Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, misled Barack Obama, and it took a long time for the foreign, developed world to identify with Nigeria as regards terrorism in the name of Boko Haram. How do you react to that?
We shouldn't place the whole, I don't want to say misfortune, but we shouldn't place the blame entirely on the doorstep of the U.S. Have we forgotten that even we, as a nation, or our governments representing our interests, we are not ready to have the U.S. label Boko Haram a terrorist group because of the implications on us as a country. We still felt we could manage the situation. It took us time to accept that, look, allow these guys to be so labeled so that necessary actions that can be taken at the international level could follow suit. I hope we have not forgotten that so soon. So it was when we now accepted that it now gave them, do I say, the opportunity to say, okay, let's label them. Since even Nigeria too is now requesting that this group be labeled a rebel group.
You're a retired colonel.
A terrorist group, sorry.
And what will wonder what the international best practices are in this situation.
Yeah.
We heard about what happened when a U.S. soldier was in custody with, you know, another country, and how there was an exchange about 5 Talibans for 1 American soldier.
Yeah.
It also happened in Israel, where we had quite a number of soldiers, or a lot of detainees being exchanged for just a single Israeli soldier. There are over 200 Nigerian girls somewhere. The Nigerian military is saying we know where they are. What exactly would you say is the best practice that should be engaged at this critical time?
When it comes to the issue of release or exchange of prisoners and so on, it's entirely the initiative of the sovereign nation involved. All right? It's entirely the initiative of the foreign nation involved. You are a sovereign body. The U.S. cannot dictate to you what to do. It's left for you to seize whatever initiative you want to seize. If you sit down there and say someone is telling you never to exchange whether PWs or exchange your girls for their fighters and whatever. Meanwhile, the same man telling you is busy releasing his own men, and something should tell you, look, I better go home and do the right thing. And what is needful to be done, as far as I'm concerned? First and foremost, thank God that these rascals who are holding on to the girls have given us the option on the table for negotiation. What if they had said no negotiations? They have said they were ready to negotiate. And they are even placing options on the table for you, telling you, give us our fighters.
What exactly
our armies and
could
so
be
on.
holding the federal government back to do that?
That is the question everybody is asking, including myself. But frankly speaking, given my experience, I want to believe that government is already negotiating for these girls, but they don't want to get the public involved in this. I frankly believe so, because I cannot have the option of a swap and then begin to go for the option of a rescue mission. A rescue mission, you can never guarantee it. More so when the strength of those involved are as large as we are talking about. It's like rescuing hostages. Okay? It's like rescuing hostages. You can never be sure. 200 girls, and these are small little girls. They're not smart soldiers who can just move on. So the best thing is to negotiate their release, and you get them out complete to their parents, and the whole nation is happy, and galvanize support again behind you. Then you can now face the terrorists and now begin to talk tough. You must be wise. First and foremost, extricate these girls safely. Haven't done that, then you now turn to the terrorists and I'll say, yes, let's move on.
You established earlier that the foreign countries might necessarily not come with their foot soldiers into Nigeria to fight. But where one would expect much of help is with the modern day technology, and especially the intelligence surveillance that they call the intelligence surveillance real time. What is the limitation of this intelligence that much is being expected of from the foreign nations?
First and foremost, whatever the MOU we've gone into with these countries have not been made public to us. And of course, I'm in support of the idea of maybe not letting these things public. These are very confidential issues, you know. So one cannot really discuss the details of what we have decided to go into with these countries. And you can only discuss what you have information and knowledge about. So at best, we can only be assuming, all right? I want to believe whatever they have decided to come in with, probably that is what is informing Mr. President's demand now for the $1 billion loan, okay, which probably will go in to pay for whatever is coming in, because after the use, likely they are to be left with us. These, I'm just playing with some ideas, you know, because we don't have enough information about the ongoings. I want to believe that is it. And even if that is it, like some of us are saying, maybe when we get to that, we'll discuss it. The issue of a loan does not really crop up because some of us believe we can source such money from within the country. So we cannot really discuss much on that angle because the MOU, the details of the MOU, is not public. It's not public.
Since a bit mention of the $1 billion foreign loan already, maybe we should just open that page.
Okay.
This year alone, we had about a quarter of the budgetary allocation going into the fight against terrorism. Many are saying Nigeria is spending lots of money, and still we are still hearing protests of ill equipment and ill welfare on the part of the military. Some are of the opinion that possibly we're fighting an economic war, and exchanging debt for equipment might just be another way of subjecting Nigeria to another economic imprisonment, so to speak, to the Western world. What's the reaction to that?
First and foremost, I would say this. Whatever the huge amount of money we are hearing that is currently being sunk into the military is as a result of the fact that we have neglected what we ought to have done in the past for too long. The president in his last media brief had mentioned that for 12 years or thereabouts, the military had not been equipped. I was made to understand, was it yesterday, by a friend, that the Minister of Defense, that's the Junior Minister of Defense, Obanikoro, was also on air saying for about nearly 25 years or thereabouts, the military had not been equipped. All sums up to the fact that we have left so much gap to be filled. More so in this time and day when technology rules the world. Battles are no longer fought from the biceps of your upper arm. Battles are today fought by the pressing of buttons. Technology has taken over. The combing of Sambisa forests, 70% of it can be achieved by technology and not actually by the physical strength. Okay? The technology leads you to where you intend to go to, and you pick up what you are looking for straight away. If there are bunkers downstairs, down, where you are stepping on, the technology tells you. And you know there's a bunker here. You press buttons, it tells you the extent of the bunker. You press buttons, it tells you what is underneath. Metal, human beings, or whatever. You press buttons, it tells you what type of metal. It gives you all the interpretations. You don't have to go digging with one digger and shovel, which in our usual crude style, that's what you could have been doing.
But should we borrow to equip the Nigerian military?
I am not for borrow. I am against the loan. We should not bring upon this country a double jeopardy. The first jeopardy already is that we are sourcing or asking for $1 billion, requesting for $1 billion to be poured into an area that is not economically viable. I hope you know military expenditure is not economically viable. Fine. That already on its own is a problem on us, which we are ready to swallow because we know it will help us out. But for us to now go sourcing that money as a loan from outside this country, I am against it. Because I feel $1 billion is too small an amount of money for Nigeria to go out borrowing. We have enough resources within this country to be able to source that money. Take your 2014 budget, keep it down, and check and see all the areas of leakages and wastages. In the office of the Secretary to the Government, there is a request for 1.2 billion For what? Welfare. What is welfare? Is that a welfare center now? After all the requests on that, in that office had been met, that subhead came there, welfare, 1.2 billion. Is he a welfare officer? Keep that aside. This country is said to be a secular country. Am I right? Good. What business have we sponsoring people going to pilgrimage and to Mecca and Jerusalem? We have voted 3 billion naira for that. We have no business. My going to Jerusalem as a Christian is entirely my private affairs between me and my God. I sat in my bedroom after my prayers. I resolved I want to go to Jerusalem go to Jerusalem on pilgrimage this year. Why should I ask government to come and finance it? So what next will government finance? Pay my transport to the church? We must be a serious nation, for Christ's sake. So there are lots of leakages in the budget which you can mop up, and it gives you about half of that amount of money. Then the balance of the half will turn to rich ones amongst us, the Dangotes, $10 and so on, and say, come and help us. Give us an interest-free loan, which will run for 3 years. We'll pay you in the next 3 or 4 years. Interest-free. They will happily give us as our sons. Happily. And we'll clap for them. And we'll collect it and balance it and go and shop.
You know, some have said that the fight against Boko Haram or terrorism in Nigeria is a local challenge that requires a local perspective. And many have warned that Nigeria should be careful and not become the African Afghanistan, because history has shown that whenever there is a Western intervention in a local, quite a local issue like this, it seems to expand for a long time. Instead of borrowing $1 billion for equipping the military, would you agree with that school of thought that there needs to be welfare and, you know, an improvement in the quality of life of the average Nigerian, especially in the north?
Let me take it one by one. First and foremost, I want Nigerians to be aware that, look, when you are talking about an asymmetric warfare, like what we have gone into now, it's not something you fight and round up within 1-2 years. I am not a doomsday advocate, but all I'm telling Nigerians is that be ready for a long fight. Be ready for a long fight. Terrorism has come, it has come, and it will be there for some time.
How did we get here, after all?
Because we were negligent. Because we did not do what we were supposed to do from the word go. Because we had politicians who had continually given us failed or serially failed leadership all along. Because we had neglected things like education, agriculture, and so on, that would have occupied the hands of the youngsters amongst us, rather than making them ready tools in the hands of irresponsible politicians.
Now, shouldn't that be much more reason why we should be spending money, developing our country, training our young ones, other than borrowing money to equip our military?
Wouldn't you get the mess on ground away before you have the peace of mind to do what you are saying? Were the girls not in schools when they were picked? Are schools not training grounds? You want to go into more training and they come and pick more? Solve the problem on ground first. You must address the problem. It has confronted you. Confront it headlong. Solve it first. Then what you are saying now follows. And that's why I keep saying, I hope after Boko Haram, as a nation, we shall now learn our lessons and put our right foot forward. I hope after Boko Haram, as a nation, we shall now know the sort of leaders we select. We shall now take a look at the process of selection of leaders in our country. Because this is a country where our first 11 is never playing in the political space. Our first 11 is always with the fans, clapping or watching. Our best hands are never on deck. We always have our third or fourth 11 playing. Look at Mr. President's, what's the Executive Council called? Cabinet.
Okay.
Yes, look at the President's cabinet. I'm not too impressed with some of the individuals we have there. For a 170 million populated country, we have very good hands in this country. We all know ourselves. As Nigerians, we know the good ones amongst us who can make very good leaders, but we never give them the chance.
We'll get there as we begin to talk about how the 2015 general election can also impact on all of this.
That would be great.
But then, how would you evaluate the quality of intervention in the past few months as regards what they call the foreign interventions? Because some are of the opinion that this foreign intervention also has the capacity of drawing stronger forces of global terrorist network to Nigeria.
So far, I haven't seen anything tangible to want to sing the praise of the foreign intervention. I personally want to believe that maybe we should give them some more time and see what's happening. But so far, I haven't seen anything tangible. I am aware that there are plans for them to be involved in some form of training and so on, yeah. I want to believe all those are still in the pipeline and so on. But I think there is nothing yet tangible on ground to be seen. If the girls had been extricated by now, maybe we could have been counting that as a big plus. Okay, and maybe we could have probably have mistaken and ascribed the achievements maybe to the foreign bodies and so on. I don't want to believe there is any rivalry between the Nigerian military and the foreign partners. I don't want to believe so. I want to believe there's a great synergy going on aimed towards a definite cause, you know, in achieving.
What gives that assurance of a synergy going on?
I said I want to believe.
Okay.
You know, working on a positive assumption that, look, I think this is what should be happening. I really don't want to believe there is any form of rivalry. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. That is to say, the rivalry probably is what is leading to all the delays we are talking about in the public. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think a lot of maturity will be playing out there.
You've worked in the Nigerian army, and the discipline of the army as a military is also being questioned in recent days. Some international organizations are discussing abuse of human rights in some quarters. We saw what happened recently in Lagos, where some soldiers were alleged to have destroyed some BRT buses and all of that. How disciplined would you say that Nigerian army has remained or become over time, especially as we begin to fight Boko Haram in Nigeria?
The army remains a very disciplined organization. And the army has structures on ground to take care of any form of indiscipline that may be emanating from, you know, its soldiers, you know. And the structures are so effective such that I can assure you that whatever misgivings we see can be appropriately addressed. More so when you look at the leadership of the army, you see very serious leadership in place. I can assure you that whatever the fears of the public, it can be well addressed. This army is quite disciplined, and it remains that, and it believes in it.
Not many people will agree, you know, with you on that, but we've seen a lot of often change in leadership, you know, in that area. How does that affect the quality of the service we have?
Well, if there is a change and it is a necessary change, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Most of the changes you see are routine changes. Retirements are routines, postings are routines, and so on. Once you are due for it, it comes in. There is nothing we can do. If a gentleman has put in up to 3 or 2 or 4 years in a given place and he's got to move, he's got to move. If you are due for retirement, going by the statutory prescriptions, and you've got to move, you've got to move, you've got to go. So you keep seeing such changes. It's everywhere, even in the civil service. It's everywhere.
When Nigeria called for foreign help, lots of people raised eyebrows, and one of the major issues is the prospect of attracting global terrorist network, because the moment the US, the UK starts working with you, then major terrorist organization like Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab begins to see you as one of them. How exactly does that work?
We should not just restrict ourselves only to the negatives, okay? We should also look at the positive side of whatever, do I say, affiliations or invitations we give to foreign armies to be of assistance to us. We should understand that such international invitations here will go a long way in deepening the fight against terrorism. It will go a long way in deepening the fight against terrorism. It will send a signal to the terrorists out there that the international community actually frowns, rejects, and has come to the understanding that there is a need for them to come together and fight you. And so it leaves them with that feeling of isolation, that they have been isolated. The positives are just so great that, look, they outdo the negative. I must be frank with you. All right? It is important that we also look at the positives.
But we'll also look at what has happened in the past,
yes,
in the sense of Western
the fact
intervention.
that it attracts
Libya, Mali, Sudan, Syria, Central African Republic. I mean, there seems to be a possibility of the Western authority finding a permanent base in these regions.
That is one of the reasons why I want to give kudos to the French or the France, the summits that held in Paris.
Okay.
The terrorism summits that held in Paris, in which our own president too was there.
And other West African
and other West African countries, yes. That summit is so important to us because, look, if we had not gone on that summit, the level of cooperation we are receiving today from these neighboring countries wouldn't have been there. More so, because you hear a lot of people say, why should the conference hold in Paris? Why not in Nigeria and so on? It was a good thing it held in Paris. It was holding under the auspices, so to speak, of the French government. Okay? And we all know the amount of influence France exerts on these countries. You know, they're all French-speaking countries. Good. The loyalty they hold to France, I think, is just next to God. They still see France like everything. That the French president was now telling them, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. So they were now seeing their own godfather has bought into the whole idea. They have no option. And that's why they have returned home and given us all the cooperation we are receiving. Before then, we were not getting all this type of cooperation. Two, that these countries that surround us or that border us are giving us this type of cooperation, meaning that indirectly we have created a buffer zone between us and the Maghreb region. Libya, what have you, Morocco, all these, the northern Arab countries. We have created a buffer zone between us and them. So if anything is to fall out from there, we have a buffer zone that will still have to contain it before it moves over to us. So it's a big assistance to us, all right? So that should be able to take care of some of the fears we're already expressing there about attracting some of these terrorists in our direction.
But then, you know, that meeting also has been held for quite a number of months now, and recently we heard about a joint army force of about 2,800 soldiers from these neighboring West African nations. But would you totally agree that this fight is a military fight, given how terrorism has taken root and has not ceased to increase in strength and might, especially in their operations in Nigeria? Some have come to conclude that maybe we are looking in the wrong direction in our methodology of fighting terrorism.
No, I don't think we're looking at the wrong direction. We are rather trying to see that we spread our tentacles round enough. I agree with you, asymmetrical battles call for more of intelligence than the physical fighting that we're talking about. In fact, 70% of it could be ascribed to intelligence. If your intelligence gathering methodology is not sound enough, if your intelligence network is not sound enough, you will have problems. If the tools you use in getting your intelligence are not superior enough, you have problems. And these are the areas which I see a lot of all these monies we are talking about going into. I'll tell you one thing. Intelligence is one area where you drop billions of dollars and you cannot even see it. You cannot even see it. Okay? It goes beyond what you can think or imagine. If you are to dump 2 spies in Libya, or 12 spies, or 22 spies in Libya, with open check, because of the job they are supposed to do, you leave the man with an open check. Today is in Sheraton for 10 days. Tomorrow is in some underground trench somewhere. Next tomorrow he's flying out with a private jet. Before we talk of the equipment that are on him. A ring, which at a swab like this is already snapping the man he's talking with so that he can send photographs back home. And so on. All these things cost money. So if you are the type who is a miser, you are busy doing this and that, my brother, you'll be left behind. You must be ready to spend the money and get what you want. And these are monies which at times you cannot even account for. So at times when you see people talk ignorantly about intelligence, with the little experience you have, you just smile and laugh and you say, well, it's a democracy. The man is entitled to his views. It's his country's money. It's his tax money that is being spent. So let him talk. Let him talk.
Some have also questioned the integrity of the government of the day to manage these funds. You know, we hear a lot about corruption here and there, and Nigerians are always very more sensitive when they hear lots of billions of dollars flying around. Would you say that we have the structure that is capable of making these things happen?
The day your country is ready to fight corruption?
Our country.
Some of this, okay, our country. The day we are ready to fight corruption, I think things we head in the best of directions.
It's all right. There's a popular saying that if Nigeria could survive the civil war, then Nigeria can survive just anything.
Sure.
When we come back after this break, I want us to consider the role that the foreign countries, the Western world, you know, played during the civil war in the 1960s and the role they're playing now, and how you know, these two different scenarios can work together and procure a better and safer future for us. We'll be back shortly. I'll be back, of course, at the top of the hour with the news. And after that, the Retired Corner will be here as we discuss more on updates on security issues. Don't go away.
You can now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website, www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then news. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.